Every time I touch mic. Every time I touch mic.
Explode the sunlight here, gentlemen. You explode the universe.
Every time I touch mic. Every time I touch mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of this split of the Aegis Champions League, where we have got ourselves a banger matchup to start things off between No AOE Damage and CCG Esports, as my cam's gonna cut us off to start things off. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by TDS. TDS, how are you doing?
It's a good way to start the season. Some things can never be changed, and that is Gordo losing his cam in almost every broadcast we have. But I'm excited. This is going to be a really great split. It's summer. We should have a lot of exciting new teams, new players, returning rosters, and a lot of exciting matches coming up as well.
Yeah, we're going to start as we intend to go on, but hopefully that means the gameplay is going to be super high quality if it means that I'm going to experience the same technical difficulties that we hoped to have left behind in the previous split. We got some exciting teams taking to the Rift tonight, though. No AOE Damage, a name that is going to be unfamiliar to plenty of folks, but they will recognize plenty of the players here. This is 4 members off of Des Moines Yellow from last split who made that run all the way to 3rd place, taking UCI Varsity be all the way to 5 games in that losers final, changing out only their mid laner here for Zoltate.
Exactly, a team that was this close to being able to reach the grand finals, and who knows, maybe even taking it, because as we know, the grand finals winner ended up being the team from I'm blanking on their name right now. Sorry for that.
UCI?
UCI, yeah. Taking it to the last step against UCI could have been the champions if they had won against UCI. So who knows what their destiny could have been after that last game. But they put up a good fight. They are a really consistent team. And like you're pointing out, making one change to maybe try and push them closer to that one step forward.
Absolutely. And then on the other side, we've got CCG Esports, team that played in the last split worth of OQs. They were previously Horizon Gaming, at least the roster was, and are now going to be joining up for their first split of the ACL. Plenty of familiar faces on this team, TDS. To run down the roster, it is PCL, Hyph, Radar, Rockboom, and DMK from top to bottom. Lots of faces that we've seen both around this league and around the amateur space in general, and a really exciting squad to see come together.
One that had a potential other player coming through, but obviously there were some changes here and there. Happens with most rosters, so it's not a surprise coming in, but still one of the rosters that has a lot of the potential. Looking at the overall rosters for the first matches and for the ongoing season, one that has maybe one of the highest potentials and looking as one of the potential winners just off of name value coming in the roster. That being said, they still need to play, they still need to showcase their potential, and I'm really excited to see how they perform, particularly as a lot of other people are on Rockboom down there in the bot lane.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really cool to see these two pair up. DMK, traditionally a jungler, that's what I think of DMK as, but has swapped over to support over the course of this last year, often pairing up with Sophist Sage on previous CCG rosters. Now going to be a good time to see how he's going to be able to perform here, paired up with Rockboom, kind of one of those rising stars that a lot of people have been paying attention to since his runs on St. Clair College, as well as on Rock Bottom Esports, paired up with PCL in that last split, who's going to be joining him here on this CCG roster.
Exactly, a really exciting potential bot lane down there that we may see. Rockboom not away from what ACLEs already have been playing from the last split, known for his ability to hyper carry, to be a really consistent AD carry and be one that can spearhead the damage from the team. Really someone that you're looking forward to in terms of playstyle, and if he can mix well with Dragon main game, I think there is a potential for this bot lane to really shine through and provide a really strong power point for the side of CCG.
Yeah, and yet another Dragon Min Kim connection here. Really feels like they've rebuilt this team around him from Fisher College, where he has been competing and attending. He brings Radar into the mid lane, a player that has been around amateur for quite a while as well. Played on some older Meme City rosters, on some of the Team Ambition rosters, on Omega last split, and then on Mirage for a little bit as well. And this guy has been grinding lately. He's back in Challenger, and he has been looking pretty good. So as we get into this draft, I'm excited to see how he's going to be able to perform up against the new mid laner for no AOE damage, Zoltate.
Exactly, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. One of the players that I feel like took, I'm not going to say is necessarily a break, but maybe a bit of a rest before trying to come back a bit stronger and trying to showcase his newfound strength coming into the amateur split this time around. Hopefully we get to see good things coming off of Raider and what he can provide for the team, because typically as long as you have a consistent mid laner and a consistent AD carry, your team can really shine through. And on this patch where there were quite a lot of changes, particularly for the potential carry positions, it's going to be really nice to see how they are able to perform. That being said, draft started, 4 bans already going through. Bot lane, the main focus, as you can see, with 2 AD carries, 1 support. And the Vi as well, point and click ultimate, always going to be really valuable. But the meta hasn't changed much when we think about the meta of the jungle. On the other lanes though, it's been completely turned around in a lot of positions, and there's champions that just simply feel that much stronger than others. For example, the Seri.
And the Vi as well, really big pick for Hyph, so definitely when they're going to take off the board. And there is going to be that Nico, freshly reworked and bamboozling people all over the world, not going to be on the board for this game around. And it's going to be an easy Gragas lock-in here for no AoE damage. I expect that's going to be for Yippee Yahoo Yaha in the jungle. It's been a major pick for him, but Zoltate could play that in mid. Solidified can maybe even play it in top. It's going to stay alive as that huge flex pick.
And it's a pick that we can even go backwards towards the previous roster of the Moin Yellow, and it's a pick that they always like to play around with. They certainly have a really nice playstyle surrounding the flexibility of the Gragas, so it's not surprised to see it coming through as the first pick for no AoE damage. That being said, it leaves open the K'Sante, and it immediately gets taken by CCG. Really consistent top laner, really good flex mid laner as well in some capacity, so you can try and play around with that a lot. And with the AD carry bans, I expect to see maybe something like the Jinx, the Aphelios, maybe even the Saya prioritize a bit more, and then supports that can buff them up as much as possible. If not, Viego is a jungler that has been quite high priority, and Wukong is still viable enough.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see one of those come on through, but it's going to be a Lucian lock-in for Rock Boom, so looking to maybe play the bot lane a little bit more aggressively here for the side of CCG, and with that K'Sante locked in for PCL, Solidified, generally not one to handshake these kind of tank matchups. If he's not going to end up on the Gragas, I would expect to see him try to take a counter pick into that K'Sante and try to fight it, coming in later on in his draft, maybe something like the Gwen, something like the Olaf, what I would be anticipating to see out of the NAD top lane. But it is going to be the Aphelios Lulu pairing for Hope and Plez. The Aphelios, such a huge pick for Hope throughout that winter split.
100%. Really strong performance with the AD carry with Aphelios. Lulu as well, buffing the Aphelios as much as possible is going to be really great. And it's still true to the current meta. Aphelios Lulu is such a strong bot lane pairing that you typically go for it. On the other side, it's going to go against a Lucian. Nami is the main pairing that you would think about. I've seen the Lucian Sona as well sometimes, and looks that can potentially be quite strong. But ideally, the main pairing of the Lucian right now feels like it's the Milio. But since it's banned away, pretty much you're forced to now opt into the Lucian Nami. And it's going to be interesting seeing how this bot lane now will perform for CCG, because this is a really aggressive bot lane focus. Like, they want to try and rampage the bot lane with these two champions as hard as possible and get an advantage through that.
Yeah, I also, in Risen Divine earlier this week, I saw Lucian Yumi come through.
Yep.
Doesn't feel like it's exactly what you want to end up going for, but at least some folks in that kind of masters level of league around the amateur scene have at least picked up that pairing as well. So could be something else to be on the lookout for as we play on this patch. This time around, though, as you said, it is going to be that Nami that's already been locked in, and already trying to ban to defend this K'Sante for PCL is the side of CCG. They are looking to ban away the Fiora. There goes the Olaf as well, so going to pinch away some of those options from Solidified. Meanwhile, the Wukong ban, as jungle still has gone unlocked in, and that Syndra to try to pinch Radar's pool a little bit. That's a favorite pick for him.
Yeah, attacking a bit of the mid lane pool I think makes sense, but I like the CCG bans a bit more, because right now the main worries that you would go against for the K'Sante are Fiora, Olaf, and the Gwen. But already with the Gragas, you kind of don't want to go for too much AP damage, because right now in the mid lane, as of now, there's quite a bit of mages that you can opt into as well. So if you go for too much magical damage on one side, that may actually end up enabling K'Sante, and K'Sante isn't even the top lane just yet secured. Like, you can actually just flex it here, go for a blind pick or counter pick here, and then the Gwen may end up getting completely destroyed as well. So I like the way that CCG is trying to approach this, with now the Jarvan pick to have an even more streamlined engage potential. It's going to be quite nice, and if they have a good combo, I feel like CCG could have a really nice way to round out their comp. But now no AoE damage, needs to close out what they have, and it's going to be potentially win.
All right, looking at towards that last kind of big meta K'Sante counter with that Fiora and that Olaf both taken off the board, and it is going to be locked in as the Gwen for Solidified. And now you have a good opportunity. You could take that Gragas into the jungle for Yippee Yahoo Yaha, where he's very comfortable with it, but it's also a very safe blind pick in the mid lane for Zoltate. If you decide you would rather go for maybe one of those more aggressive junglers, he does open you up for an opportunity to, you know, take something like a Kindred, or to take something early aggressive like the Lee Sin that is now being hovered.
Not gonna lie, that it would be quite aggressive. Does take a bit of the AD damage, so that way you're not going to be focused on just one specific damage dealing attribute. Instead, going for the Lee Sin allows for more early game prowess, like you were pointing out, and if they are able to get the snowball going, they can deny it quite a bit for CCG. Technically, as of now, I think that no AoE damage has more viability towards the later stage of the game than CCG. They still need one champion to try and get back into the late game power opportunity, and I'm not sure if it's the Ahri. I honestly still favor NAD in the sense of the late game potential, but as a whole, I do think that CCG has a lot of tools to try and run the early game. even if you have the Lee Sin, I think the 2v2 between Jarvan and Ari and Lee Sin Gragas is going to be quite contested. And then if you're able to put a lot of focus towards the bot side, and like we were pointing out, snowball them as hard as possible, I can see them just running away with the game really effectively.
I can as well. This is a really set up to kind of play through that mid jungle, move into bot lane, set up for Lucian and Nami to get super ahead, stack up those dragons. You know, it's the traditional 2022 and 2023 way of playing your League of Legends through that bot lane and trusting that Cassante is going to be able to hold his own up in that top and come support you for some of those later team fights. He can teleport down a little bit earlier now after mid-season with those changes to teleport, making it unleashed at about 10 minutes. And now it is going to really be up to this Gragas in the jungle for, this Gragas in mid lane and the Lee Sin in jungle to try to make sure that they're going to be able to stem that bleeding in the early game and not give away too much to the side of CCG while they look to play this early aggressive style.
Exactly, and technically though, even though there's no timer to really try and worry about on either side, really you can make arguments for later stage games for both sides and early game potential for both sides. I think that CCG really wants to try and enable as much as possible their bot lane like they want. Like you're pointing out, it's kind of the meta still, the fact that you go for your bot lane, you try and secure the objectives, the early dragons, the early heralds. That is still the current meta way of playing. And as long as you have control over those objectives as hard as possible, and you're able to snowball through that early control that you get on the bot side particularly, then the game can go in a similar direction every time. Like you get the early objectives, you get the control, you force your opponent to be worried and force mistakes, and after a few teamfight wins, you are able to secure the Baron and win the game through that. That's pretty much the same way that has been played for a while now, and even though the meta changed a bit in terms of champions, in that idea it hasn't changed that much. So I still think that CCG has the potential to be able to pull it through, and as long as they are able to also lock down the Aphelios and the Lulu eventually, they have the damage to be able to burst them down as well.
It's just going to come down to being able to lock down that Aphelios and Lulu. You're really reliant on the Jarvan to be able to do that unless you're getting a really good flank angle in from the Ahri or the Cassante. So going to be on the lookout here to see what that Gragas can do to stem that engage. You can interrupt flag and drag with the body slam. That's a super effective way of preventing anything from going in. And then all of that buffing and enchanting coming in through from the Lulu on the freshly reworked enchanter items going to be plenty helpful towards keeping that Aphelios topped off and safe and making sure that it's not going to get melted down too early on. It's really going to come down to who is able to build up an advantage early on, because that can really influence whether or not you hit those key thresholds of being able to take out the Aphelios.
And it's going to be, I want to put a lot of focus as well towards the mid lane matchup. We were already kind of hyping it up with the change obviously on the side of NAD that they were bringing forward Saldid and now going against Rather here. I think particularly in this matchup where getting the push advantage and being able to move around with your team as early as possible, it's going to actually net you a lot of good opportunities to try and get the snowball going as hard as possible. With both junglers that are really good early game focused junglers that want to get the game going in their favor, that want to go for ganks, you want to try and have as much control possible of the mid lane as you can. And if you even get a kill in the mid lane particularly, you just completely run through with whatever the enemy team wants to do. Because if you control the mid lane, moving around is so much easier. So I'm going to really put my eyes on that particular matchup. Even if it's not kills between the two of them, it's more so who can control it so that you can impact the map better.
And I want to take a second now here, having seen both of these team comps, to talk about our little format changes that have come through from winter into summer, where now we play within the group for the first 5 weeks, and then you only fit in one cross group match during that time, and then we'll go into seed-based cross group matches for week 6 and week 7. So ending up top 2 off of your first 5 weeks, where you end up playing all 4 other teams in your group, that record now gets super important. We've now front loaded a lot of these really important matches, and with these teams being 2 of the highest rated teams in the Noxus group, it's really going to be crucial for them to be able to win this head-to-head to try to earn themselves that top seed and give themselves the best chances of that bye in the playoffs later on. So a lot at stake actually, even though it's only the first week.
Exactly, actually putting a lot more pressure on the early results. I also think does give a good opportunity so that even if the early start is not that great, you will still have a good opportunity to go against, and the good teams that maybe didn't have the best of starts can still salvage some of the situations, especially because it's seed based. You do have potential to go against good matchups. Yes, top seeds obviously will have an advantage, but I think that the closer they are between each other, the more interesting and more hype matchups we may end up getting, and that's what really matters, getting the most hype matchups out of that possible, and then going into playoffs with the best teams possible as well.
Yeah, for sure. So gonna maybe get a little bit easier in the coming weeks. They're playing their first and most closely rated match here to start things off. We'll have to play against Redacted, Packwatch, and Meme City later on in the coming weeks. So a pretty stacked up Noxus group here. These two teams, some of the best that we have in the entire league. You know, they're both in that top 6 as far as rankings go, and both ended up seeded into the same group. So gonna be a banger here to start things off. Maybe even a little bit of a playoff preview if you really believe that the seeding has been just that accurate. Gonna be a lot of fun to check these two out. No AOE damage, of course, Orgless, but coming in really hoping to be able to reprise some of that performance that they saw just in the winter split.
Yeah, they may be Orgless, but they are certainly a team to watch out for. And as long as they are able to perform, someone more than likely should be able to pick them up and play around with this player. Especially also thinking about the NACL queue, you want to try and get as much opportunities as you can and try and showcase as much as possible, because there's still teams trying to complete each other out and fill out with certain players. So there's always going to be an opportunity for the players, for the team to try and get something going.
Yeah, for sure. Going to be a lot of momentum building going on here, right? You got this ACL match, you got next week's ACL match, and then you have got those NACL qualifiers, something that I know CCG is looking to compete in. I assume no AOE damage is looking to do much of the same, right? These guys been pretty highly rated. These guys had a great run in the last split of ACL. They have a solid chance of being able to perform well in that NACL queue as well. I certainly hope that they're planning on attending at the very least, but nonetheless, they've got some posturing in the ACL to get out of the way first, as we are ticking down in our spectate delay to get into this game number 1. Want to see if they're going to be able to play this kind of scaling up style up against a team that has all of the experience and all of the star power that CCG really brings to the table here. These are names that we have seen in and out of Proving Grounds qualifiers and NACL qualifiers for years and years now. These guys have got a lot of experience, and knowing CCG as an organization, they were always one that was willing to play these super aggressive play styles before. I know they still have Topo at coach, so I assume they're still going to be bringing in some of that philosophy here, even if the players have kind of changed out.
Certainly, you want to try and keep something consistent like that, and I think CCG is going to go for the sort of more aggressive playstyle, not only because of the champs that they drafted, but also in how they typically do like to have their teams playing. And I kind of always brought this forward with a lot of teams, even though I do like more scaling kind of comps that can try and have less opportunities to get completely destroyed early on in the game. These are the compositions that I feel like more teams like. The ones that give you the onus, give you the opportunity to run however you want the game. You have the same whatever play you want to pull off. You have the jungler to go for the plays as soon as possible. The other champions to follow behind you. And I think this suits a lot of teams much better, because at least they will be the ones that's to say what play they want to force and how they want to force it. So with that in mind, I think CCG with the players and this sort of comp, they probably will have a much easier time trying to pull off their plan.
And as we finish off this little spectate delay, I do want to call out, we are on 13-11, so we have had some of those rebalancings come through just a couple days ago. And big one on this patch, I feel like, it's the buff sharing, right? Everybody's Ivern now. There's pretty much going to be double the buffs walking around on the map.
I didn't even realize. I honestly didn't even know that it was a thing. Like, I kind of skimmed through that. I just realized it. I was playing Ranked, and I got a blue buff out of nowhere, and I was like, wait, is that a thing now? That caught me by surprise. So yeah, I'm glad that they added that, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It really does mean that there's basically double the buffs in the game now. You know, you're going to have 4 of those things walking around, and with how often they get reset, if this game gets to be kind of kill heavy, we're going to start seeing like a lot of buffs sitting around the game all at the same time, right? As they start to trade back and forth. Yeah. Interesting to see how that's going to end up working out. Do you think it really favors any specific compositions, or do you think it's kind of net neutral all around, TDS?
Well, as a mid lane, I am heavily biased in the fact that I finally get a blue buff every time that I want. So honestly, I'm all in for that. I think the red buff one, though, is kind of the more interesting one, because there's junglers that do want to have the red buff, but same as the AD carries. So the fact that now you have someone that will dive in with the red buff to have the, I think, the burn plus the regeneration to follow up through, and then you have the AD carry as well applying it, can mean not only more damage but more potential denial of healing in a lot of those situations. I think that's the one that particularly is the one that I'm more interested on, because typically the ones that won the mana are mid laners. That's it. You typically is mid lane the one that you focus on the mana. But red buff really can be used by anyone. And I think that as long as you're able to share it between multiple champions, you actually can get a lot of value out of that super early on as well.
That's certainly true. I know I heard some whispering about being concerned about how this might favor blue side a lot because they can get to the red buff much easier. You do need to fully upgrade your smite before the sharing turns on, so not going to happen in the early game at the very least, but something to keep our eyes on as we start to get kind of into that mid to late game position. Once these smites are fully upgraded, how will these junglers choose to allocate those additional buffs? Looking like it's a pretty safe level 1 coming out from both sides here, but maybe a little delayed invade from CCG on the bottom side.
Ooh, Salted almost hitting that Q as well to try and get some damage. But yeah, actually the advantage of information going to be in favor of CCG as of now, at least. Obviously, Gragas later can get in and put down the ward, so even though it's probably going to be similar, the vision advantage is going to be for CCG because the side of CCG knows where the ward is from no AOE damage. That is not this true for CCG. So they will probably not be ready to either spot that ward or know that it's put down there.
Definitely here, as we do have wards on both sides, so we will have some knowledge of where the jungler is going to be on both teams here. Solidified, even given that little leash over to Yippee Yahoo Yaha, really wants to make sure that this Lee Sin is going to be off to an explosive start, and it looks like PCL is going to do the same thing for Hive.
And both youngers starting over on the top side. I would love to see Jarvan go for a quick gang over on the top side. Well, typically you do that after you clear the first buff, so probably not going to end up seeing that, but would be great to get an early gang to try and maybe shut down Solidified or force something out. Always having an advantage on the top lane for this case Santa, where it's a 1v1, straight up 1v1, would turn out great for them, and really early trading we see up there on the top side as well.
Yeah, gonna end up favoring PCL just a little bit as Solidified is looking to get level 2, wants to get that skip and slash. Nice dodge out though on the third slash coming on through, and now going to get a nice trade back onto PCS, or PCL rather.
And PCS is a professional league.
It is. ACL, almost a professional league. PCL has some professional experience even. Was an academy for a little bit, I believe, but no, never in the PCS.
A quick thing though, by the way, did you see Kevy is going back to PCS?
True. Well, if you count OCE as PCS, which Riot does now.
Well, technically it's technically it's if Riot counts it. So going to be an interesting turnaround, but sad to see Kevy go. That being said, we do have some good talent here, so hopefully they get the chance that Kevy is not getting here over on NA.
Yeah, back to the NA junglers exclusively here for the NACL. Solidified. Going to have forced out an early recall. Yippee Yahoo Yaha coming in for the mid lane gang. Zaltate out of mana though. Looks like it will just be the Q1 and the dash away. The Radar is going to keep himself pretty safe.
Really well by Radar there, just to get the extra movement speed to be able to run away as fast as possible. And even though there was no mana, there was a slight chance that as long as you get the stun, you can try and force at least a flash off of Radar. But it's a pretty equal trade, nothing blown out of anyone, just a bit of health, and the jungler's still not really impacting as much as possible the map.
Hive now making a little bit of a trip towards the bottom lane, just gonna throw down that ward to make sure he can secure his scuttle crab, but doesn't look like he wants to mess with Hope and Plez quite yet. Wants to at least make sure he's gonna be able to get that river vision first. And Zaltate taking a fair bit of damage in the mid lane. Rock Boom going in aggressively. It's a nice bit of damage in there with the addition of the buff from Nami.
Quick thing as well, but feels like a really weird transition that the Lee Sin showed, because he started over on top side, went to the bot side, and then went back to the top side after the failed gank onto the Yari. Kind of opened up a pretty easy path for Hive. Wait though, Hive found here, doesn't get the Crocs, but nothing bad ends up happening. Still a really weird overall kind of situation for the junglers, because I feel like now that Jarvan does take a bit of a health hit, it does affect a bit more. But before, it was much more advantageous for the Jarvan that way, because now he could force anything that he wanted, and the Lee Sin would have been a step behind.
Yeah, definitely. Yippee Yahoo Yaha now going to steal the Krugs away on the other side, knows that he is as far away from Hive as he could possibly be. as PCL is getting pushed in on the top side here, is still pretty healthy. So I don't think this dive can be worked out. Nobody's going to be tanky enough to absorb the turret shots between Solidified and Yippee. So they are just going to end up going for a recall on the Lee Sin. Solidified, though, farming very nicely, having a great time in this top lane.
Exactly, doing a really good job. And that's one of the advantages of the Gwen up there. Yes, you may be able to fight back a bit as PCL, but typically the Gwen should be able to put a lot of pressure onto you and be able to get an advantage in terms of farm against you. Really well done there by Solidified. Dragon Main King needs to be careful here, though.
Ooh, DMK just going so low. He's got the Ignite on top of him. One more Yuri proc. Is he going to go down? He will. Plez collects first blood. DMK overestimating how much he can take.
That was legitimately a 1v1 between supports. And the Lulu ends up winning it at the end. Super bloodthirsty, super aggressive, and Plez with that first blood. It's a trade of summoners, technically, because it was a 1-for-1. But we'll now get to see what the support champion will do with the first blood gold. An extra ruby crystal, pretty much.
Yeah, you know, it's better to have it on the support than to not have it at all. You know, you might have rather given it over to Hope, but not even getting the assist there, by the way, has not even scratched DMK in quite a while. So he's going to wish he had gotten, you know, a little Infernum AOE onto him or something there. But that is going to be a bubble landed onto Plez. But they've got Yippee in the wings to back them up if they end up needing him. And they will be able to just get that nice recall off for the NAD bot lane. That's a nice ultimate from Zoltate. Gets Radar to take a turret shot, and Radar is just going to have to Spirit Rush out of there, forced into a recall.
Essentially forced to run away. Radar is staying for way too long, and Zoltate has flash. With a WE, you can kill the Ahri. So I think Radar should either back or just wait behind your turret. It's not worth to try and wait so far forward. Still nothing going to happen there. Really nice combo that we saw from Salty there, but he's not going to have the ultimate wait.
Ooh, an attempted steal from Yippee does not work out, but there's the flash body slam from Zoltate. Hype going to have to flag and drag his way away, and he's got a little timing advantage on Hope and Plez, but Hope just flashes in and gets the kill. Gonna be a 2-0 start now for NAD. They do claim the dragon for the side of CCG.
And 2 kills on the side of NAD, 1 for the support, 1 for the AD carry. Yes, flash was blown, but at the end they are able to secure it. And you do get the dragon, which is a good thing to start off, but we haven't really seen the pressure that we expected off of the bot lane from the Lucian Nami to spike into anything else. And with a good rotation coming in, a really good force from the mid lane into Snowball, now moving into the dragon to be able to get the kill. It's a really good couple of events for NAD, and they are even going to get a lot of plates here for Hope.
This is a dream situation for Hope to be able to cash in. It's gonna maybe even get a second one here, and this is a 1.5k gold lead for the scaling team comp TDS. A fantastic start here for no AOE damage. They've got to be very happy with themselves.
Does take a bit of a heavy trade down there, but getting 2 plates plus the kill. Hope feeling so nice at this point. He may be 200 gold, just on 200 gold ahead, but when you think about the potential scaling for a champion like Aphelios, it matters much more than the Lucian can ever hope for. And Solidified just uses the ulti.
Yeah, Ghosts traded in the top lane there. PCL was threatening to go aggressive, trying to pull Solidified under the turret, I think. So they do just trade those back and forth, and the ultimate from Solidified is committed as well. Nobody going to end up going down, but it's going to result in Solidified just rejoining down here onto Yippee, help him out with that Rift Herald. They did get a nice bit of wave clear out of the ultimate, so they had a little timer.
And now that the plates, or a couple of the plates, were taken from the bot lane turret, I can see them just leaving it down there, the Herald, to try and put Hope as far ahead as possible. But level 6 for Hype, the minions...
Hope's got nowhere to go. He is locked in there. No flash, no nothing. Radar going to claim the kill, and now Plez going to be the next target. Dashing one more. Will get the reset. Will get out to safety, but Zoltate is here now, but in a 1 versus 4 situation, he's just going to have to hug that turret for his life. No AoE damage, gives up 2. Flash
really good flash
from Radar, and everything comboed on top of it. CCG regains control.
Really good play there by Radar, forcing the flash. charm to be able to catch the Gragas into such a bad spot, getting the kill, gaining back the gold lead, and ideally, more importantly, putting Rockboom back into a really good spot in the game. Yes, the CS lead is quite heavily in favor of Rockboom as of now, but he was pretty close to gold with Hope anyway. So now that you finally are able to put him back into a much more commanding spot, the Lucian can spike like you typically expect to see the Lucian spiking. And I love how they saw the Herald being taken down and immediately forced a play down there in the bot lane. Herald is sealed here though.
Great selection to force down there. Hyph still clearing towards this side, still going to be here to back up for the return play from the side of Yippee, who does commit that Rift Herald, trying to get first turret. Hyph is going to be here to try to stop that from happening. The turret's incredibly low, but the Rift Herald's not quite enough. Polymorph comes through early, and Hope now is the one who is the farthest up. Gonna have to watch out for that return damage. PCL has teleported in from behind. The 10-minute unleash teleport right on top of Hope, who is gonna end up going down, but it's gonna get traded back as it's just a melting of damage onto Hyph, but PCL still fighting it out, still trying to take out Yippee, but can't quite get it done. The double kill coming over to Yippee, 2 for 2 all in all, but that turret does go down for no AOE damage, and Zoltate now is looking to keep the play going. Explosive Cask knocks Radar into the wall, but they can't get on top of him, and he will be able to just run away.
And the Cask, I think, actually saves the life from Radar there. He pushes Radar away just enough that the Lee Sin Q doesn't connect, so he cannot actually follow up on it. Really close five-man party down there in the bot lane. We were just missing the big fat man down there because he didn't have teleport. But apart from that, coming in right here behind everyone, as soon as the Rift Herald gets put down, he was forcing the play, and they are able to try and contest. I think the biggest thing here, Rockboom has no mana. And for an AD carry like Lucian that depends a lot on his abilities, the fact that he has no mana takes away a good amount of damage. Also takes a big hit. Ooh, mid lane.
Oh, an explosive fight in the mid lane. Hope and Plez just end up getting engaged on. Looks like it was Hyph's Cataclysm yet again, locking down the bot lane duo. No flash, no way to escape, and they give up 2 more to CCG.
And this is exactly why a lot of teams value the Jarvan so highly. I do as well. It's just so easy to be able to pull off as many plays as you want as possible. One good Cataclysm locks down 80 carries that have no mobility. Guess what happens? They more than likely will die. Flash just coming back up for Hope, so he had no hope of escaping that Cataclysm play. And to add on top of that, the fact that right now 80 carries are not really that high mobility wise. You have the Lucian, the Seri, and maybe the Caitlyn. But apart from that, Jinx, Aphelios, Hawkmow, Barriers, they are not AD carries that have a lot of mobility. PCL getting collapsed here.
Solidified, looking to chase down. Did not land some of those needleworks, and that is not going to give you the slow you need to chase down the rest of the way. But Yippee making a play in the bottom river, gets a nice chunk on a Radar, but doesn't have the ward to dash behind, doesn't decide to go in for that big Dragon's Rage.
They still got the dragon in the previous play, so I think that even if they don't get a kill, that's still valuable enough for them. They are denying the dragon scaling, something that I would think a lot of early game teams want to try and get as hard as possible. And then you're also putting a bit of time back in your favor, because since there's no soul coming up, you can now give those 4 minutes of the extra dragon to Aphelios to farm up as much as possible.
Does give them that extra bit of time. Yippee nearly finds Hyph there, who does just flag and drag his way over the wall. Stormrazor now complete for Rockboom. This is a little nerfed on this patch. The base damage reduced a little bit, so looks like it's still the build that Rockboom prefers, and he still wants to go in for that early aggression, but we'll see if they still have the ability to really burst out these crucial targets after that base damage has been removed. Zoltate is behind Radar and feels confident in taking this one-on-one, even at a 1-level deficit, just chasing Radar all the way back over towards his turret. That's gonna be a flash back from Radar. Gonna commit the charm as well, just to try to get away. Yippee forced to jump over the wall, and somehow we've switched sides again.
No.
Zoltate going for the combo, but doesn't get him back into the explosive cask. And it looks like Radar will be able to avoid everything, but Yippee now going to have to commit the control ward to jump over the wall. Solidified looking to take the fight, jumps over the wall from PCL, who gets Dragon Raged away and shut down by the snip from Solidified. No AOE damage, re-getting themselves the lead back at the top side.
Yeah, a bit unlucky there. I like the idea. It wasn't actually bad to try and commit there, try and kill the Lee Sin. The only big thing there is that you don't have the follow-up from Hive to be able to go over the wall. You already went all in with your previous play. He's not going to be able to follow up on you, and that at the end makes the play go a bit heads up for the side of AOE, of no AOE damage. That being said, they go ho.
Ooh, everybody all in on the Hope, who is chunked so low, but the giant growth gonna be just enough to keep Hope safe. And Hype looking for the flank, but finds himself face to face with Lee Sin as Yippee is going to push him back into the river, chunking him to about half HP, keeping Hope safe. That's the name of the game. It takes both flashes from both bot laners, but Hope survives.
He stays alive. He did have to use heal as well. Also the ultimate for the Lulu, so they had to commit quite a bit to be able to keep themselves alive. But Hope not dying is always the best thing possible. He also gets now the Storm Racer, so can contest a bit to the damage of the Lucian, at least to a certain degree. Right now though, the Lucian is going to be making quite a lot of damage, and it's going to be a bit difficult to not stop him from bursting someone that is as low health as Hope. Look at that.
Goodness, the damage on the Hope is crazy, but the damage out of Yippee is plenty more. They're going to burst out the Lee Sin and actually make this into a positive play for NAD. Hife, though, looking to finish the job, could do it with the Cataclysm, but is face to face with Plez, who's just pushing him back with the Glitter Lances, knows that he's going to get polymorphed if he overcommits, and they are just going to have to exit this play. Radar might be the next target, avoids the Sonic Wave, and will be able to get out to regroup with the rest of the team, but no AoE damage, consistently punishing some over-aggression here from CCG, even while they have the gold lead.
Exactly, even though there's an advantage for CCG, the respect that NAD is giving and also the preparedness to try and respond back to some of those plays have been really good by them. I like the idea from Rockboom though. I think you have to be this sort of aggressive if you're playing the Lucian Nami combo, because you have to try and burst them out while you still can. Eventually it's going to become harder, and there's going to be better protection around the Aphelios as well. So I think these are the good opportunities to try and go for it. That being said, he didn't have Flash nor Gale Force. That is something that now for the Lucian combo is going to be a bit harder to achieve, and until he has either of the two, probably going to be at a much higher risk of getting collapsed on and dying like that.
Definitely, and Storm Razor builds actually for both AD carries here, so the nerf's not going to dissuade anybody this game around. We'll see if that is going to affect the mythic choice at all, as well as Radar might be the next target here. Yippee has jumped around behind. That's going to be the Rift Herald committed in mid lane. Hife looking for the flank, but now Yippee getting to kick back in on a Radar, but doesn't have the follow-up. Zoltate too far away, focused on the minion wave. Teleport committed from PCL, and now with the tempo, they're just throwing down this Rift Herald and claiming themselves the turrets in mid. Now the lockdown coming through onto Solidified. He may have overcommitted, but he's got the growth from the Lulu, and now throwing the needlework over the wall. Hife nearly goes down, but gets healed up by the Nami, and Zoltate wants to finish this one. Explosive cast will do it, and Zoltate claims the kill. It's 7-7 on the scoreboard. CCG, though, with so much gold from the mid lane, they're so happy with how that play went.
They force the play. As soon as they see the teleport coming in on the top side, they decide that they want to go for that play. Rockboom plays.
Rockboom blowing Plez up. The burst damage from this Lucian, it's even crazier than it used to be with how he can build now. DMK, though, taking a fair bit of damage. Yippee just wants to dive in there with his War Drinker. He takes out the support and goes on a rampage, and he's got Hope to keep the DPS coming, but PCL gonna dive right on top of him, goes all out over the wall. 1 versus 3, though, taking damage from every source, and Hope is just gonna melt him down and solidify it in from the flank. Picks up the shutdown up against Radar, and now it's chasing down on a Rockboom. He is going to have to play this perfectly to stay alive, but Solidified just dashes in and cuts them down. A double kill to the top laner of no AoE damage, but Hife is back, and Hife is not done. He wants to get onto Hope, but now he's the one faced with more numbers than he can deal with. A kick away from Yippee, just trying to create distance between Hife and the ADC, and Plez is there to slow him down and finish him off. The Ignite is committed, perhaps a little bit much, but Solidified gonna go on that rampage and gonna claim one more.
I really wanted to get the kill there onto the Aphelios, but not enough distance to be able to get on top of him, and at the end it's going to be another kill. Really chaotic fight, a lot of things happening, really long skirmish. Lucian realistically shouldn't be ashamed of not being able to escape the win, because it's not typically that you see someone escaping the win anyway. So at the end he just ended up dying. But overall, The fight for NAD is so massive. They are able to recover so much gold. Aphelios didn't die. Pelez may end up dying again though. Oh,
Radar in again did not land the charm though. Gonna get pushed back away.
Wait, Rockboom.
Yippee is in the back line on top of everybody. Rockboom has to flash back over the wall, and now it's solidified, and Zoltate frontlining and chasing down the members of CCG in a fight that they started. One more barrel will do it on a Rockboom, and he just has to get the hell out of there. But CCG is going to avoid losing any members.
How did Rockboom survive that? He should have died. He dashed in, not knowing who was there, and gets collapsed on, almost loses his life, luckily survives, and no dragon is yet taken. For CCG, this was a really good outcome, even though they lost the flash from Rockboom, because at least that means the dragon's still alive, they cannot take any other objective, and they are able to dissuade any sort of potential play that NAD wants to try and pull off.
The disengage from NAD really starting to come online here. You can CCG, they commit the resources. They're trying to keep making these aggressive plays, but their windows to do so are closing as their gold lead does the same. They haven't quite gotten far enough ahead to be able to just brute force everything. They have to execute at a much higher level, and things like Radar missing that charm, they're going to stop them from being able to make the play at all.
And you have to give a huge credit to NAD for that. They are the ones that are performing really, really well, answering back to the plays that CCG wants to do. At the end, it's going to be a free dragon for the side of CCG because there's no potential to contest now with NAD being on the top side. But I think that the way that they have played, like, there's a name for this game, but like taking one and then giving up one, I think has been really smart by them because their composition doesn't need to heavily snowball early on. They have tools for that, but they are not dependent on that. Phyllis is going to outscale the living hell out of the Radar.
If he nearly one-shots Radar and just gets him over the wall, commits the control ward and takes him down, now has to flash to get away from PCL and finds himself face-to-face with Rockboom. Another ward will get Yippee out of here, and it tossed him 2 control wards. That's 200 gold, but he does get away and he does get the kill. Now solidified, going to be trying to defend this over the wall. Zoltate is just blowing hype up, and Yippee is gonna finish the job, and now it's a 3 versus 5 over this Baron for CCG. They've dropped 2 members in unexpected scenarios, and they have to try to find a way to stop this Baron from going down. They do not want to leave it without a fight, but they are so disadvantaged in this situation. PCL doing his best, looking to move on in with the Intofu strikes, focusing the damage there onto Solidified. He gets chunked so low. They have no smite, they have no way to steal, and they're not going to stop doing the Baron on the side of no AOE. Plez is going to drop Zoltates over the wall. They are going to blow up Rockboom, and now PCL is going to have to fight this out as the sole damage dealer, but there's just no chance up against Hope, who will go godlike. It's actually Yippee who picks up that kill, and Radar now has rejoined the fray, but is only going to be able to escort his Nami out.
Exactly. It's going to mean that nobody else dies, but that is such a good outcome for NAD. Yes, they lost the Gragas and the Lulu, but they were kind of expected casualties when you think about the overall way that it went. The fact that you get 3 Barons, Gwen gets 1, Aphelios and Touch gets so much value by himself, and then you're still able to cancel out so much of the gold lead that CCG had, is just so beneficial for them. This is an unexpected thing for Radar and a really unlucky outcome as well, because Yippee was just going to back, but because of that, you're able to force the kill. Not only force the kill, buy enough time so that someone ends up being in such a bad spot, and when it's Hive, who is 2 levels behind Yippee by the way, he ends up getting collapsed and died. As soon as the jungler is down, you get the Baron really effectively. But it's not only on picking this sort of situation off, it's the fact that they have control with vision over on the top side. They have a really good squad hovering around their AD carry, and they are not allowing for opportunities to someone getting on top of that AD carry and killing him as soon as possible.
Huge play there by the side of no AOE. You can see the top laners brawling in the picture-in-picture there. Nobody gonna end up going down, but it is gonna be another turret for NAD. And now the siege on mid lane solidified, firmly winning the one-on-one up against PCL. 4-0-4 on this Gwen. 2 items complete, fully scaled. And there is going to be the ultimate from Hyphy. Flashes back out. He's locked down Zoltate and Plez, but there's just no follow-up. And now Hope, frontlining here, lands a big Moonlight Vigil, but is getting melted down by the culling. He will be the first one to drop. An Explosive Cask not going to be enough damage. Neither is Yippee. Yippee drops as well. Plez is going to be next. Zoltate's the last one standing. And CCG, blinking health bars scores across the board, but they perfectly time everything, and they take themselves a double kill for Rock Boom in a 4-for-0 fight. PCL going to drop on the top side, though, and somebody's going to have to get up and deal with this top lane.
And that way, no longer is a 4-for-0, but a 4-for-1. We finally see a bit of a crack in the great armor that NAD has had so far protecting Hope. Goes a bit too far forward, still has Flash, still has Gale Force, gets collapsed on and gets immediately bursted out. Really close goal for CCG though. They actually took way too much damage for comfort there, but since no members died, it was really easy for them to try and play around it. You can see here how they commit a lot onto Saltate, onto the Kragas, but in reality they were waiting in a really well performed manner for Hope to make this step. As soon as he did, he was dead. He cannot survive the huge amount of damage, even though he has a huge amount of damage himself. He was going to get traded at the very least. And when Hope is dead, you can try and stop any sort of push. The extra kills are just presence for CCG. Not really that of huge value, but really just stopping the Baron push and also getting a bit of extra gold. The big kill was Hope.
Makes such a big difference there. Thought that he had the damage to just force them back single-handedly and came very close to it with the Infernum Moonlight Vigil, but this doesn't end up working out there and is going to end up giving his life. And now CCG, they have an avenue back into this.
The fact that they were able to stop the Baron push without losing any inner structures is so big for them. Rockman has a lot of damage. The only thing is not getting collapsed and being able to play around it. Teleport?
Ooh, teleport.
Oh my god.
Saltate just gets destroyed. Rock Boom goes on a killing spree, and now going to be a numbers advantage for CCG. They can turn that into Soul Point. CCG, they continue to find the better plays, and no AoE damage, they kind of just gift them one.
They were able to force it so well. Rockman has Gale Force now. He can actually force a bit more onto Hope if Hope is not careful enough. The one item lead, oh, Hope.
Going pretty low there, playing with a bit of fire, but is going to be able to sustain back up. And now here's Yippee. He gets the kick. He knocks carries with it, but there's no follow-up, and the charm is going to lock him down in turn. Jungler down for no AoE damage, as the dragon will be claimed by Hive.
But here you can really see the difference that the Gale Force actually makes for Rockman there. Even though he wasn't the focus, he's able to move himself just enough that even without flash, even without a dash, he can still put himself in a safe enough spot. And he has the extra burst to kill the Lee Sin there in that play. Really good charm as well there by Raider to deny it, and they are able to not only get the dragon, get another turret, and get so much more value in their favor. Probably not going to even lose the turret in the top lane because now the area is already there to respond to it.
The side laning has been good from Solidified, but there's limits to what you can accomplish there, and just not getting enough time to be able to bust open an inhibitor or anything like that. Want to see if they try to shift things up towards the top side now. Baron spawning in 40 seconds. There is still an inner to be claimed by Solidified there, but he doesn't have the TP, and it might mean risking the Baron itself.
Well, now that there's only one TP in all of the game from the area, I think that there's an opportunity for CCG to actually call the bluff and try and play away from it. Like, not necessarily play away from it, what I mean is just keep enough members that you can protect it from being a thing, but actually try and force something else with that. Because Baron buff, even though it's good, I don't think that you need to force it. Just yet, at least. If you're able to force a fight in your favor or get an objective in your favor, it's probably better for CCG. Plez is dead.
Radar finds Plez walking to group up with the team and bursts him out.
Radar's dead.
His life for it. Solidified snips him down, and Solidified now full HP in a perfect position to frontline for the rest of the team fight. Hype is already down, and Yippee kicks Rock Boom back into the rest of the squad. Rock Boom, nowhere left to go. It's Gale forced on and taken down, and Hope is over the wall to melt the rest of the team. One more shot comes through. DMK taken incredibly low as the rest of the team drops around him, and no AoE damage. They find their fight, and they could bust open the base right here, TDS.
The overcommitment there by Radar, forcing the play too much onto a support, onto Plez. I'm not against killing Plez as much as possible, but he's already 1-7. It's not like he's giving you more gold, and maybe they look for more here. I actually really like that bubble from Dragon Main King, but I don't think it's going to be enough to stop this. It's going to be first game for NAD, Gordo.
Radar and Hive respawning just in time, but not going to be in time to defend the Nexus. No AoE damage are going to start this series off 1-0 up against CCG.
And honestly, what an anticlimactic way to actually end up the game, right? It was a pickup to Bless that turns into 2 kills and Rockboom dying that then turns into the game. I wasn't expecting that to be the end of the game just like that, but still really consistent game from both sides. Neither gave an inch to either team until the very last moment, and it goes to show how close these two teams may end up being between each other.
For sure, some great fight back there from CCG. They did not find the early game advantage that they would have wanted with this composition. It was actually over a 1k gold lead to the side of NAD for a while, but now here we can see where Radar goes in, gets Plez, but ends up
the
game-losing team fight.
It's not a bad pick realistically. I just think that you either have to respect the fact that the Gragas exists or commit your flash without from trying to escape. Actually, looking at it at the repeat, I think it was down from what it looks like, so probably less of a chance to actually run away. But the idea of killing Plez, especially when he's so far away from the team, is not bad. It's that you have to be ready for the response because there's a Gragas on the other team. And that's also one of the reasons why I think AOE or no AOE should be respected with this Gragas pick. They play around it so well, almost always. It's a consistent pick for them, and 3 out of 4 players can play it to such a good level. Like we see here, Salty being able to perform really good casks and forcing a lot of the good plays. That is also a case for the other members. We know that their jungler and top laner can perform with the Gragas as well. I think that you have to just take it away because he's such a consistent pick.
And speaking of the jungler, shout out to Yippee there. Great play on the rock boom in that last fight. Takes the Q kick onto a different target, flashes behind the Lucian and knocks him back in. Really clean Lee Sin mechanics there, and turns what could have just been a 2-for-0 fight into a 4-for-0 fight that actually nets no AOE damage to win right then, right there.
Exactly. Really good performance. Well, I'm not the biggest of fans of Lee Sin, especially when he's not potentially the strongest jungler, but it's great to see players performing on the champion. And it's not only that pick on the Lucian that was really great, but he was able to force fights, get good picks, get a lot of good situations for the team. So I think that overall, really great performance by Yippee.
Yeah, and I know it's a stat that production can't get for us, but I want to know how much gold he spent on control wards that he just hopped to in that game, because it's at least like 500 to 600, maybe even more. He committed a lot of control wards for ward hops in that game, so a lot of money invested in the mobility, but you know, it pays off when you can make the huge plays. We're scrolling through on the post-match grid. We can see how many control wards purchased. 7 purchased by the Lee Sin in this game. Some of them may have even been used as control wards, but we'll have to look back at the mod to find out for sure. We're going to throw it to a quick break here while we get into draft for game number 2, but stay tuned as no AOE damage to CCG are going to take to the Rift again. Find out how far we go in this best of 3. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League, where no AOE damage take a solid Game 1 win over the side of CCG Esports. Was pretty back and forth there for a while, but no AOE damage. They return it to how it started, and they claim themselves that Game number 1 win.
Exactly. A lot of ups and downs for both teams in that game. A lot of contestations that they could have gone for in a lot of fights. I think really consistent game in terms of mechanics in a lot of situations. There were missed mechanics here and there, but I was glad to see this sort of first game to start the split, and I'm excited for what the game 2 will bring forward. That being said, there's changes that need to be made, because if you lose, you have to adapt in some way, and I'm kind of interested in seeing what CCG will try and trade away. Hopefully, and I hope they change the Lucian Nami, not because it's necessarily bad, because I think that right now, probably Lucian is better with other pairings than the Nami. And I would like to see something more.
And looking at the picks and bans, which are just getting started here, it is going to be the same sides here going into game number 2. No AOE damage on the blue, CCG still on the red. They are going through those picks and bans incredibly quickly. The Jarvan ban going to join no AOE damage, replacing that Jace. So far, CCG are keeping the same pick and ban strategy that they showed in game number 1, and they are going to keep it the same the whole way through with that Nico ban.
It's not typical. We see the team that won actually changing up one of their bans for something of the previous game, but I really like the adaptation for an AD here. Jarvan is such a good jungler right now, especially like we were talking about. Locking down in mobile AD carries, it's such a good way to try and win the games, and Jarvan was doing such an amazing job at that. The Gragas gets picked once again, and CCG answers with the same 2 picks as well, Lucian and Nami. Maybe this time around they can perform a bit better, they can find more angles, but I don't see why NAD should go away from just picking Aphelios Lulu here once again.
Alternative explanation here for you, TDS, is a little disrespect in the top lane, perhaps. It was the Jace ban up against PCL in game number 1, but Solidified had a fantastic performance in the top lane in that first game. Was completely dominant in the side lane the whole way through. He just says, hey, PCL, maybe you can get your Jace and I'll still be able to win.
That would be such a good call. They are able to perform like that. Say, I'm better than you, get whatever you want, I'm still going to win against you. That would be so good, so dominating by Solidified. That being said, the Jace can also get picked a wave. CCG doesn't pick it here, and they still don't take it in the bans in the second rotation. That could still be an opportunity for NED to get it themselves and try and showcase that they are good with the Jace on their side. But so far, 3 out of the 5 champions from CCG in the previous game, 3 out of the 5 champions from NED in the previous game. There's only one that cannot be picked at all, and that's the Jarvan. But that's it. We can end up seeing the same 9 champions from the previous game.
We can. This does change some things up, though. Like, I don't think no AOE damage are going to ban the Syndra when they see the RE locked in the first 3. So we're going to start to shift things up a little bit more as we get into the second round of bans. Probably not going to see the Salty run back this time around. And it's actually going to be CCG banning away the Cassante that they picked in game number 1. To me, this says they want to set up for that 5th pick counter pick in the top lane, and they want to play through PCL.
And I like the fact that they do want to opt into their 5th pick counter pick. Like, the jungler meta right now feels pretty similar to the one that we were left off with before the changes in the items and the AD carry position. So it's not like you don't have options from there that you can take right now. I think Sejuani is still a good enough jungler. Zac still exists as well. I think it's a viable enough jungler. Viego, really good hyper carry if you want to play through that. I think Belbeth as well has been popping up, so could be an interesting option if you're thinking about another carry jungler. But there's good options to try and go against. The Gwen as well getting banned here, I think it puts even more pressure in the fact that they probably want to go for a top lane advantage up there for CCG.
Yeah, just going to take away another pick that Solidified is comfortable on, but Solidified's pool of top laners runs pretty deep. He plays a lot of Jax, a lot of Fiora, a lot of Olaf. Those are all now going to be left up, having been taken off the board in game number 1. In game number 1, the Olaf was banned, the Fiora was banned, the Jax was still left up, and he ended up with the Gwen. Now, they banned that Gwen, but they end up leaving up 2 others in a Volibear pick. That's a surprise coming through here from the side of CCG.
Could still be the Volibear jungler, so not necessarily going to be in the top lane straight up. Could be a really interesting flex that they go for. And now NED has to decide if they want to have a carry in the top lane that can get countered here, still has the potential, or if they go for something more safe. I think Jax is between a good mix of safety and also carry potential, so not necessarily against it. I would argue the other one that I almost always think about, it's Camille. Nara as well could have been an option, but there's some champions that they could have gone for. And this Sejuani, so they are going to leave Salty with this Gragas potentially, which I'm not against. I think he performed really well against Radar in the mid lane matchup in the previous game, so not against them taking it back into Radar.
Yeah, it's super useful to have that immovable object in the mid lane in the form of the Gragas. He's just going to sustain through everything, and there's going to be the Olaf counter pick for PCL in the top lane. I think this is surely a Volibear jungler and an Olaf top. He is going to look to take the fight to Solidified's Jax, but as you said, Jax, a nice middle ground between safety and carry potential, and also one that Solidified is incredibly comfortable on. It's his most played in solo queue. He's got like 230 games played of it. He's going to be very happy to be able to have this one locked in, and to go for that Sejuani jungle plus a melee top laner pairing, especially one with an auto reset, it gives you the chance to potentially play aggressively in this Olaf pre-level 6 if you can set up for the Sejuani gank.
Exactly. The only down part would be when it comes to level 6. Now the Olaf will be able to run away really effectively, but you still are able to apply it to everyone else. So I do like the combination that you do get there. I also, with the Gragas as well, you have 3 melee champions that you can apply the passive from the Sejuani into, and then you have the hyper carry in the form of the Aphelios. I think that NED still has a really cohesive idea that they want to go for into the later stages of the game. They have a really good tank now that can also phase check whatever the area wants to throw, whatever the Volibear wants to throw. Things like that can be really consistent to keep your Aphelios even safer than in the previous game with the Lee Sin. And they are able to find the middle ground that they were able to get, where it's not necessarily a snowball, but they are able to survive for the later stages. They can certainly try and carry off the game. I really like NED's comp. CCG feels a bit similar as well to the previous game, where they want to try and get something going really early on, but the Olaf is a really good wildcard to play with.
It is. It's, you know, technically the flex is still alive between the Olaf and the Volibear. Not one that we get to see very often, but technically still alive, still an option for CCG if they want to go for it. And I do like to see them doubling down for the DMK Rock Boom bottom lane. I thought they showed some real good looks with this Lucian Nami duo, especially in the mid game, right? The early game didn't really go their way, but even without having that sizable early game advantage, they were really able to blow some people up with these two and the Ahri all together, really leaning back into that play style, feeling like they can replicate that success, but maybe with a little bit more success in the early game.
Exactly. I think that they were lacking that early game burst that you typically can see from the Lucian, because the later the game got, even though they still were able to blow certain targets up, that last play is defined, but them not being able to blow up the Lulu. And I think that does go a bit onto the Lucian, but also onto the Ahri, and they are not able to pull up those sort of plays early on. Later on, it's going to become much more difficult, especially going against tanks like the Sejuani or like the Gragas. Even the Jax, to a certain degree, thanks to the fact that he can protect himself with a Counter-Strike. So I think that there may be a bit more difficulty for the Lucian to find their sort of burst opportunities, but if they are able to find them and perform on them, I can see them just being able to run with the snowball. Technically, there's nobody to stop the Olaf either, so if they are snowballing the game super hard, I can see CCG being able to just run over with everything.
Yeah, even if they aren't snowballing the game that hard, Olaf kind of a sleeper scaling option, especially up against these types of compositions, right? We were all excited to have double melee solo laners along with the Sejuani, but that's kind of a double-edged sword when you're up against the Olaf. Triple melee composition up against Olaf means he's always going to have somebody to swing at, and that means he's going to be able to keep his ulti going indefinitely. And that CC that you are so often reliant on from the Lulu, from the Sejuani, from the Gragas, it's just not going to be effective when Olaf is in that Ragnarok. So they're going to have to make sure to space this guy really appropriately, and maybe even keep some of those mobility tools available for their front line so that they just don't let Olaf stay CC immune for too long.
Makes it so that now you have to focus on one specific thing. Either you go in and burst the Olaf before he even gets a chance to do anything, which is a bit harder to do with no actual bursting champions like the Ahri or something like that, or a Blank, or you ignore the Olaf and try and play for everyone else, which I think it's a much doable strategy thanks to the cask from the Gragas as well as the big potential that the Sejuani provides. But it's still a difficult call. I think, like you're pointing out, the Olaf feels like the biggest wildcard in this game. And if he is able to find an angle where he can hit multiple targets and nobody's able to kill him before he really can just get stacking on his passive and being able to attack with the shield, and the Ragnarok keeps on going and going and going, then I can see him just running over with everything.
Definitely a possibility. And, you know, the Volibear kind of slept on ever since they made changes to Turbo Chem Tank. Honestly, when they nerfed Turbo Chem Tank before they reworked it, that really took Volibear right out of the meta. But he's still pretty strong, right? He's still got a whole lot of power here. I want to see if we end up seeing the press the attack out of Hyph. I love to see rune choices like that on the Volibear. He's got 3 auto attack resets in his kit. The W and the Q are both auto resets, so you could trigger that stuff instantaneously. That's always super valuable. And he's just got a lot of damage in the tank, right? As well as that dive potential he brings to the table. I think Volibear's been a little slept on for a while. I don't think he's been, you know, completely taken out of viability by the Turbo Chem Tank changes. I want to see what they're going to be able to get done with it here on CCG.
I think the main thing with him is the telegraphed way of attacking certain fights, right? The fact that he has, and it's something that has been part of the champion since before his rework and even after his rework. You have to run forward to be able to get anything going with the Volibear, and because of how telegraphed it is, it's kind of difficult to not be ready for it and be able to answer back. That being said, I do think there's spots for Volibear to try and shine through. The possibility to disable turrets is always great to try and make dives work out, and he can become quite tanky when he goes for the tankier builds and survive long enough. He also has really good percentage damage, like you were pointing out, so it's not like it's unplayable through that. It's just that I feel like the situations are not yet set for him to really shine through in the meta, and I think this particular meta may be one of the better opportunities because, like we were pointing out, it's slow in mobile AD carries that are popping up. Slow in mobile mages in the mid lane, apart from a certain few, like this, like the Ahri, like maybe LeBlanc if she comes through. Then on the AD carry, it's the Seri, the Lucian, and then maybe the Caitlyn and the Ezreal. But apart from that, there's options to be able to deny them. So I think Volibear may find an opportunity to shine through this meta. like the buy, for example.
Yeah, definitely possible. And you know, it's not like he doesn't still have options to boost up his speed, right? Gustwalker Hatchling is in the game, right? You can go for the blue jungle pet and you can be rushing at people outside of a bush like Turbo Chem Tank never even changed. Right? There's mobility options available to Volibear in 2023 that didn't even exist in 2022. Give my bear a chance. Let's see how CCG are going to be able to pilot it. He is up against a mainstay in the meta in the form of the Sejuani, another Freljord champion coming in that role. Should be able to win that one-on-one if they find each other in a dark alley. So a lot going in Hype's favor this time around. We'll see how no AOE damage are going to be able to perform up against that risk. Got a lot of safety in their lanes here. Even the melees, they've got access to those dashes. They've got access to that lane safety, and they know what kind of situation they're going into. Might be difficult to find opportunities for that reason, but CCG's all about bot lane anyway, baby. They're going to go in for those dives. They're going to look to punish this Aphelios Lulu, much like they did in the previous game, and they were able to do that just fine with the Jarvan.
Exactly. I believe that a CCG plays better the farther away they are from top lane. The more they ignore that particular place in the map, the better they do. And it's shown because of how early they wanted to go for a 5v4 in the bot lane with a teleport from PCL. So I'm expecting something similar this game. Maybe not necessarily PCL teleporting down there. I think Olaf is going to take Flash Ghost anyway, because that's typically one of the better ways to try and make him be as strong as possible by himself. But in that sense, I still expect to see everyone just focusing over there, down there in the bot side. I don't expect to see anyone go to top lane and get, unless it's for an off gank, and then allow for PCL to be completely isolated up there and try and win the matchup by himself.
Definitely something to be on the lookout for. They did turn this entire draft towards PCL, right? They saw a winning topside matchup for no AOE damage in game number 1, and their decision was to double down on their top side to make sure that not only are they going to avoid that bad matchup, but they're going to look to get themselves a favorable matchup for themselves. They don't want to play this even. They want to play this aggressively, and they want to get PCL into a winning position. He's this super experienced top laner, right? Played for Maryville, played for plenty of other teams in the past, played for Rock Bottom most recently. They want to see a return to that form.
They really want to try and force it, especially with this early start level 1 going down here in the bot side. They have a point and click stun from the Volibear, so they are actually able to pull it off. Certainly can get something going, and Hope should be noticed is,
Well, doesn't look like anybody's going to end up. Oh, actually, the Undertow does land on the Hope. He is going to commit the flash.
Another one hits.
Load on the follow-up anyway. PCL leading the charge with his Ghost, landing Undertow after Undertow onto all 3 targets. Here's the slow off
Hope
the
lightning
storm, and Hope is going to go down for first blood. PCL off to the early lead.
So it wasn't the flash Ghost on the Olaf, but with the Ghost alone, he's able to get the Undertow. If one Undertow hits, you have no chance of escaping. Even when you flash, you still have the slow coming through, so you're going to get hit. And the second hit was crucial, pivotal to get that kill. Now, there is a good setup here, so maybe they can kill Hive without him expecting it. I'm not sure. Hive doesn't know this.
No, Hype does not appear to know that this is going down. Had a little bit of a stutter there. Yippee and Solidified out of the bush. But they don't really have, it doesn't look like Solidified has Leap Strike. They can't actually block, and Hope just caught up too far. Rockboom and DMK, they were camping the bush, and they're going to get another kill. Rockboom picks up Hope.
He's dead.
Turnaround. Solidified does take out Hype, but Yippee up a little bit far now. It's going to be PCL looking to cash in once again, but Solidified comes back from the wall, charges the counter strike, gets the double kill. Can he make it the triple? He can. Solidified says PCL gets first blood. I can do you 3 times better.
What is happening, Gordo? We had a kill bot lane, to start for Hope, but in the meanwhile, a skirmish in the top lane, not a clown fiesta, a smaller clown party, not involving everyone, but it's still a 3v3. And even though Salted arrived later to the fight, it was looking that maybe it was going to be better for the side of CCG, but at the end they are able to cut it out beautifully for them. Solidified gets this kill, flashes away. They are able to cut it out as better as they can, and PCL is not able to get anything going with no Ghost here. He's just going to get kited out, and that's exactly what happened.
A clown social in the top lane, we'll call it. It's no AOE damage now. find themselves on much more even footing cross map with CCG, but these side lanes are just a mess now for both teams. It is such a huge lead for CCG in the bottom lane, such a huge lead for NAD in the top lane through Solidified. And how these junglers play around this now is just going to be crazy. If you commit your time towards the losing side and just start losing harder, it's going to be a disaster.
Also, you have to think, imagine you being PCL. You get the first blood of the game and are going to back to lane with a long sword, just able to try and go against the Jax. And then out of nowhere, Jax is 3-0. He just, out of nowhere, is able to now fight against you with a Shin. That must be really sad for PCL. He had the advantage, but now kind of lost all the effectiveness from that first blood. It still has the CS lead at the very least, but now it's going to be a bit more difficult. Also, we didn't point it out, but Solidified has the Ignite instead of the Teleport.
All right, Rock Boom coming in for a little play here. Hope going to get pushed underneath the turret, gets his recall interrupted. Plez has left his AD on their own. Now this desync in the bottom lane, great for Rock Boom and DMK actually. On top of the freeze, this is a really bad situation to be in if you're Hope.
I'm not sure when Hope is going to turn up because of this. Not necessarily because for anything he's done, but just simply wait. PCL change CC.
CL almost ends up going down there. Will have to go for the recall nonetheless. Yippee hoo yaha. He's chosen a path as a jungler. He wants to play towards his winning side. He wants to make sure that Solidified is going to be absolutely unbeatable in this side lane.
Let's be honest, wouldn't you do the same if you were a jungler? It would feel like bot lane is so dead that even your own teammate is saying it's not worth it. Just leave us here.
All right, Plez and Hope pushed back here. Hype coming in for the play. It is going to be that trade of sides for both junglers. Hype can't make the play happen either. Hope is going to stay safe, but PCL now getting dove on the other side. He still doesn't have the ultimate, and now tanking it up is Yippee. He just barely avoids going down, and it's a trade back in favor of NAD, the bottom side as well. PCL does manage to get the kill back onto Yippee, but it's a 2-for-1 cross map when all is said and done. Somehow Rock Boom goes down.
Yeah, this is a win for NAD. Yes, you lose Yippee on the top side, but it doesn't matter. You get a counter kill in a 3v2 situation on the bot side. You're able to get the kill onto PCL anyway, and the Jax pushed under the turret. He got a plate. The amount of gold that NAD got out of this sole sequence of events is just simply much better for them, and CCG lost their biggest advantage. Bot lane, just because of that small blunder down there. Rock Boom, they were trading a bit here. He gets hit by the Q, so I think he gets a slow enough for that. And the Ignite is enough, yeah. What's with Bless getting kills down there early on in the bot lane?
Dude, Lulu does so much damage. I've been saying this, like, Pix base damage and Glitterland's base damage are too damn high. There's so many kills that end up going towards Lulu's in these early games, plus Ignite, plus Airy. You just deal like half people's HP with the full combo at level 3.
Yeah, and the fact that you're able to do it already, not once, but twice in the same series, because it happened in the previous game as well, just goes to show how much damage it really has. Maybe in the future Riot decides to nerf it. Probably won't happen. They haven't nerfed Gragas after all this time, so probably not going to be the case with the Lulu as well.
No, we've decided these are the champions of 2023. They are staying there until we nerf them right before Worlds and really throw a wrench into everything. That is the way League of Legends is sometimes. Rock Boom in DMK, though, going to be maybe caught out a little bit too aggressive. Yippee coming in. There's going to be the two-man snare. It's going to get cleansed away from Rock Boom, trying to turn the play onto Hope, but Hope dips into the bush, and the autos can't come through for Rock Boom anymore. Still doesn't look like they're at risk of going down in this play, though. They're turning it back. Yippee going to get hit by the bubble. Here comes Rock Boom with that burst damage, but Plez still healthy enough to keep the fight going. He's got that Lulu base damage. He's got the kill onto DMK, and he's going to turn it onto Rock Boom, but he gets turned on himself. Flash in from Yippee. Lands the flail, takes the kill, and it's going to be a 2-for-1 in favor of no AOE damage.
And that wasn't a 2 kill for Lulu just because she out-attacked the minion. If she actually out-attacked the Lucian, I could have seen a double kill from Lulu. That being said, another trade down there in the bot lane, heavy trade in favor of NAD. They get 2 kills for the price of 1. Yippee doesn't die, and we can see the replay here. Love the flash from Hope. I like the aggressiveness. The cleanse comes in clutch from Rockboom, and also the heal to keep them as healthy as possible. And also, because they take too much damage on the side of Hope, they are not able to force the issue a bit more. But this is so well played by both Ples and Yippee. They force it so much. Dragon Minkim takes too much damage, gets stunned here, and then Lulu base damage. Like you said, Gordo, love it or hate it, it's enough to get the kills.
Yeah, love this flash flail from Yippee. Huge there to respond to Rock Booms. His mechanics have been on point today, honestly. Yippee really showing up to play and pulling an AOE damage in the lead.
Yeah, and importantly, recovering the bot lane as hard as possible. The two plays that he has been part of down there has been really, really good for the side of NAD. Now, Hope can have a little bit more hope in terms of his playstyle for the bot side, and the fact that they are dominating top lane just gives them even more value for this game. Still has to be careful if they go for a gank attempt here. Oh,
a nice stun landed onto DMK. He's so close to going down. They can't quite finish the job. And Plez has taken so much from Hype on the other side. Rockboom going to finish off that kill, but the stun comes through from Yippee. And now Hope, one more shot could finish off Hype. It's not going to be enough yet. And Radar now trying to turn this around. Flash forward, but doesn't land the charm. It hit a minion. And now he's going to get stunned back in turn, but the damage again still is not there for Hope yet. They're just going to have to disengage, but that's Radar's flash for nothing.
It wasn't the minion, by the way. It was the turret from Aphelios. He laid down the Q turret, hits on the perfect timing. As soon as he flashes, throws down the turret, hits the turret. The charm hits the turret and escapes with his life. Hope surviving by the skin of his teeth, but able to survive nonetheless.
They do get the dragon. They have produced enough pressure. They have pushed back Hope. They didn't kill Plez, so they are going to claim that one. You can see here exactly where the block ends up coming through. That's all I'm watching for. Nice dive in here from Hype, and he will be able to kill the Lulu.
Honestly, surprising how Dragon Minkim survives there, but it doesn't really matter. The damage from the Sejuani actually quite high here, and they committed everything on killing that Lulu. Look at this. You can see there, the turret goes down in front of the turret. It's perfect timing there by Hope surviving close enough, and even if the turret wasn't the one blocking it, I like that GP was already in front of the Aphelios as well, so was going to chunk the charm anyway.
Oh, mechanical masterclass from the no AoE damage guys this game. All right, Plez gonna be forced to flash away there. Rockboom landing plenty of shots off the culling. The bubble's going to land, but Rockboom's not there to finish the job. And here comes Hope to clear on out the wave. So CCG fishing for something, but can't quite find it.
You know what the saying says, Gordo. It's better to have a flashless Lulu than a dead Lulu.
It is. I do say that quite often.
Yeah, it happens quite a lot, especially in my games. You see Lulus dying quite often. But particularly bot lane. You see bot lane dying. That's what happens.
In my games, for sure. But going to be PCL. Actually doing pretty good up against Solidified here. You know, you want to get onto those item spikes for the Jax, and he's going to get on them much earlier. But until he actually gets to them, not going to quite be able to brawl up with this Olaf the way he would want. Does still have about a 1k gold lead and just spent nearly everything he had to finish the Trinity Force. So now is where the fight's going to start favoring Solidified, surely.
The buffed up Trinity Force, the one that now actually gives you so much value. And it's something that I'm kind of interested in, why people don't go Trinity Force Lucian. I think Lucian is similar to Seri, so I think that Trinity Force Lucian could be a thing.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't even notice this. The called shot by Solidified. He's got the ignite. He's here for the one-on-one.
Yeah, he wants to kill
Didn't even take the TP. And oh boy, is that paid off. As he is so far ahead here. Now going to be Rift Herald dropped in the top lane. They will be able to pick up first turret here. And PCL being corralled back into the lane. He's going to be left here without a turret. Does commit the ultimate to immune the CC, but can't immune the damage. Solidified goes unstoppable.
Yeah, and that was really our main question here. Even if you have the damage to kill him, how long will it take? Because he has the way to deny the CC to come through, and at the end it doesn't matter. He just kills them, and they take 2 turrets after that kill onto the Olaf. Yes, they may have lost a ton of plates down here in the bot lane, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, going to try to take that turret, but yeah, first turret gold's come and gone. The opportunity to really be able to cash out here not going to exist for CCG. They've lost so much now on the top side, and the gamble of betting everything on Solidified, it is paying off dividends now for no AoE damage as Yippee Yahoo Yaha continues to pay visits up there and to get more and more gold for Solidified.
you really have to think that it was all based on that counterplay after the level 1. The fact that they get so much value, those 3 kills for the Jax as soon as they were able to counter the first blood, was so well done by NAD. And they have not stopped since. They are able to put pressure on top lane. They haven't given any opportunity for PCL to actually play the game. And I think that was the smart approach, denying the Olaf from doing anything. Bot lane was kind of doomed from the start, especially with what happened to Hope. Oh no. Okay, just a quick base. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Radar taking some damage there. All right. Going to be that execute onto DMK. He'll be fine with that any day of the week. If it's your support and it's an execute, it really does not matter that much. Not really losing out on any of the farm. Saltate now going to fill that bot lane role as they rotate Hope and Plez towards the mid lane. Maybe get a little bit of safer time farming for this Aphelios.
Difference really is on top lane between bot lane. It's 1 item for Rock Boom to the no items from the Aphelios, and then the 1 item on Solidified to now completed item for PCL. Still quite a bit behind.
Definitely. You can see the BF sword already there for Solidified, working on that Spear Shojin flash blown from DMK as Zaltate was coming in, threatening the explosive cask, threatening the flash body slam, and the threat alone going to force out a summoner spell. Solidified is here as well. This is where all that gold is. This is where all that power is. Not quite at the level 11 power spike, but still plenty stronger than many folks on the map.
100% his, but in the meanwhile, the fact that 5 members are here means that alone in top lane is PCL, and he's able to push the wave because there's no teleport to answer to him. There's just a Gragas, but Gragas is here as well.
Yeah, threatening back and forth. CCG baiting no AOE damage to continue to commit resources into threatening the fight, but they are not biting far enough. They are not overextending. They are not getting engaged on. No AOE damage will be able to claim this dragon, but it's at the cost of all that alone time in top lane you were talking about. PCL will cash out with the turret as Zaltate comes to answer.
Closing more of that gold, now a bit in favor of CCG. They're still behind by quite a bit, but it's not enough. Oh, Hope, no. Okay, he's fine.
All right, flash used, but nobody gonna end up going down.
Hope needs to be careful. Yeah, I'm not sure about this, Hope, really.
Oh, dash forward. Yippee, still willing to commit here. DMK going to drop, but look at the back line. PCL has just run down Hope, and they don't have access to this Jax yet. He's coming in on the flank angle. They're actually committing forward on the Solidified as the perfect fighting. Great explosive cask. Going to force the flash away there from Hype, but now the focus is coming in onto PCL, who is just getting blocked down by Solidified. Flash in, leap strike, and taking down Rock Boom. Radar and Hype now, the last 2 standing, going to have to back away. Solidified is just too dangerous.
Yeah, NAD playing the team fight in such a perfect manner, making them long enough that even when Hope is not there, they already blow out everything that CCG has on their favor. They committed ultimates just to try and close out onto Hope. Hope died, but the re-engage from NAD was just simply so well executed. And also, we talked about this. The Ragnarok was down. As soon as it's down, now when Solidified comes in, the CC comes in, they're just so easily able to kill the Olaf and not allow for him to run rampant. Really great team fight, really well done, and everything done amazingly well by the side of NAD.
Really good job. Again, showing what they showed in game number 1, that they can just absorb this pressure all day long. The nice aggressive flank plays coming through from CCG. This is the kind of proactivity you want from an ACL team, but it's just getting punished so effectively by NAD over and over again, showing all that experience they have playing together as a roster throughout this whole year.
It's a 4-man squad.
Hope dropping low once again, but manages to stay alive with a little assistance from his friend the Lulu. And now Solidified set up in the side lane. You can see the spam pings coming through. Somebody has to answer Jax, but nobody wants to be on Jax duty. Plez, though, chunks so low. PCL finds the flank and cuts down the bot lane. Double kill to the Olaf. And now Solidified, now it's all in your hands to see what you can cash out on here in the one-on-one up against Radar. Yippee, maybe getting a little bit collapsed on here. PCL has already committed the ultimate, so has to play with his wits about him, but Zaltate still has plenty of damage himself, going to push them back.
Yeah, they are not going to push farther than that, but getting the 2 kills like they did, it's still quite valuable for the side of CCG. Now, Olaf going to back away safely, not going to be that bad for him. Same can be said for Solidified, so it's going to be a pretty safe disengage coming through. Oh, Salted.
Oh, Zoltate maybe playing with fire a little bit too much there. Rock Boom going to be able to pick up the kill.
He saw a ward and wanted to kill it. Sadly, it turns against his own life. And now it's going to be once again CCG finding a bit of opportunity to breath back life into themselves and try and survive for as long as possible. Hope still quite far away from the Lucian, so not going to be in the best of spots to try and answer back in any way. But as long as they still have the Jax pushing on the sideline and nobody being truly able to stop him, I think that the side of NAD is completely fine. They can find the time for Hope to come back into the game thanks to this Jax. Look at that, immediately forced out.
All right, the one-on-one, Solidified committing the ultimate. PCL thinks he can fight this out, and he is wrong. Solidified with the Triforce, with the Spirit Shojin, just bonks down PCL.
Essentially not having even the counter-strike, it doesn't matter. Hive?
Oh, Hive walks into 4 members. He's going to die here. Has to commit the ultimate to try to get away, but there's follow-up CC for days. Hive will drop here before too long. Yippee going to end up going on a rampage. Here's the re-engage, but that's going to be a 2-man ultimate on the Infernum off of Hope. Chunks down Rock Boom and DMK, who are going to have to back away, and now Solidified has earned himself some alone time in the bottom lane thanks to that solo kill on PCL. It is just all going belly up for CCG.
Yeah, kind of surprised that Hope didn't go for the Gravitum ultimate to try and get the lockdown and see if they can persecute a little bit more into Rockboom. But they still get the kill onto Hive. They force the turret down there on the bot lane. It's 2 kills on a turret, still making the gold lead go farther in favor of NAD. And as long as nobody else dies, Solid Hate needs to be careful here. Ooh.
That's the flash out of Rock Boom. I call that a win. For no AOE damage. It's Rock Boom and DMK feeling like they have to force something in this mid game, feeling themselves losing that big point of power up against the scaling team comp from no AOE damage, but now Rock Boom is flashless.
Exactly. The more you can get, maybe even more here, Dragon Main Kim.
Oh, flashing over the bear there. Hive now going to go into the stasis, and now here's the re-engage. PCL coming in on the flank, wants to jump onto Hope, is going to try to focus down Solidified instead, but the 3-man stun, the dive in, the legendary top laner for no AOE damage, and Solidified, he gets the Lulu ult, he leap strikes in once again, and he is just ripping through the CCG roster. Finally, it's going to be Zoltate going down, but it's a double kill for Hope, and it is a fantastic team fight for the no AOE side.
What can Solidify do, Gordo? He's just jumping in, getting stuns, forcing flashes, diving back in because he doesn't care about your team. He cares about winning, and that's exactly what he's doing for NAD. Gets the kills, perfect setup to keep Hope alive as well. In the meanwhile, where everyone was trying to also get on top of the Philios, he just buys enough space for Hope to be able to hit, even without ultimate. It gets so much damage, and thanks to that teamfight victory, they also secured the dragon. But that was a weird fight for NAD overall, not because they could have won it better or anything like that, but more so because of the positioning. It was not the best position to try and force it, and they were able to play around it so well. I think it goes to show the communication, like you were bringing up, with the fact that they are members that have played together for so long. But they are able to spot here GP. GP gets spotted even though he forces really well. The position that they are forced to is not the best. The Sanjas also kind of pushed them into a bad spot, but they are able to play around this Ragnarok, this ultimate so well overall. And the jump in for the 4-man, technically 3 because of the Ragnarok, was so well done.
Great plays there from no AOE damage. Again, they manage their health bars so effectively, right? Zoltate tanks damage until he has to back out. Solidified tanks just the right amount before he has to back out, and then jumps back in. They know exactly where their limits are. They continue to buy space for even Hope, who was 0-5 coming into that fight, to deal enough damage to get the double kill and to be able to win out in the 5-on-5, even though they aren't the ones with the strong AD.
Still takes more than half of his health though with just the calling. That goes to show how he still needs to buy a little bit more time for Hope to come back. But they are doing an amazing job now. 3 items strong, Solidified. Who can really stop him? I'm not sure if Olaf can do anything, if PCL can do anything in the top lane fight. He's just that much stronger than you.
And with the Gargoyle Stone Plate done now too, he's tankier. He's stronger than ever. He's going to get more resistances from the aggressive stats he's built, and he's got a ton of resistances already. Just going to get harder and harder.
4K gold lead. It's a 4K gold lead alone in the top lane. It's not enough to cover for the 2K gold. Yeah, essentially. He's pretty much the difference between everyone else. Well, I will give the benefit to Sejuani as well. Yippee has 3,000 gold in his favor.
Yeah, Yippie's been getting assists on solidified kills. And then there's that advantage Rockboom has in the bottom lane, of course, but 3-item Lucian, nothing to scoff at compared to the 1-item Aphelios. Still very, very strong in that isolated matchup, but we're 23 minutes in. That isolated matchup doesn't really present itself that often, and anytime you're Rockboom in a team fight situation, you've got Solidified to think about.
Even going to go a bit farther into that as well, went for the Nabori instead of the Gale Force. Kind of surprised. That means that now if he has no dash nor flash, if he gets jumped on, probably dies. So really interesting decision there. Maybe valuing the damage more so than the survivability potential, but interesting decision making here by Rockboom.
Yeah, I do like, in a way, going Navori on the Lucian does. Oh wait, I'm gonna take a break here as PCL might be getting caught. Doesn't have to blow the ghost. Saltate now going to be the next target. Hype going to commit the smite, going to flash in. There's the charm. Everything committed onto Zaltate, and Rockboom will be able to get the kill.
Olaf is far away. I think they can actually commit here. Okay, he's teleporting in. Does have the teleport advantage, so no teleport now, but at least they do get the kill into Saltate. I don't think they can force Baron just because there's teleport on Saltate, and the timing now it's kind of scuffed to try and force it.
Arm landed onto Yippee. It is a 5 versus 4 here for CCG. Hope takes a boatload of damage, and Rockboom raining down the culling now. Going to get pushed back. Here comes the wave coming through. Going to get dodged away from Rockboom leading the charge. 4-man Moonlight Vigil from Hope. Rains down the damage there with those sniper shots, and Solidified camping in this bush looking for a target. CCG are just going to have to back away.
Yeah, but you can see how difficult it is for CCG to play this game out. Not necessarily because they don't have tools, but because even if they get a pick, there's always the opportunity that Solidified is strong enough to deny them. And I'm not sure if they are able to kill Solidified at this point in the game. They still lack a bit of more items on the Olaf, a bit more items on the Lucian, and I'm not sure if they are going to get the time.
Now I can return to my point earlier. So the thing about Quickblade's Lucian is it does let you use crit to amp your culling damage.
Okay.
So in a way, it like makes you a longer range champion if you could really like just put a lot of effort into culling. Yeah, not the perfect solution there, but
well, think about it as well.
Thinking here
gives you can make it so that the counter strike doesn't matter for you because you can just go Q ulti and you can try and blow Solidified that way. Yeah, that can be the option, I think.
Yeah, and just gives you that effective range regardless to try to stay away from the Sejuani, away from the Jax, and that's how Rockboom has to play these fights. You're not going to get a lot of angles to really be auto-attacking these guys down. There's just too much threat from the Gragas, from the Sejuani, from the Jax. They're just going to lock you down, and then you're not going to get anything accomplished at all. Now starting up the Baron here. It's going to be no AOE damage, forced to face check.
They do have good vision around it, and it's not like it's the quickest Baron. So I think they do have a good opportunity. We have to focus on Radar as well. Look at Radar on their side.
Looking for the flank here with the Spirit Rush Solidified. Also on the backside of the Baron has the Blast Cone to jump on in. Hythe going to be left in the pit alone for a moment there. But the dash back out from Yippee. Here comes Solidified, focusing right onto Hythe. Melts him down. No smite for the side of CCG, and that's going to be a smite down for no AOE damage. 2 members already down. Yippie's over the wall, chasing down Rockboom, who's trying his best to kite this out. But Plez is there with the shields. Plez is there for the giant growth, and Plez is there to chase them the rest of the way down. Hope gonna look for one more auto. Here's the teleport in from Zaltate to flank Rockboom and take out the last member of CCG. No AOE damage. They get the Baron and the 5-for-0 ace. They're gonna close out this series.
Hype took way too much damage in that fight, and as soon as it was the angle for Solidified to get it, guess what happens? They win the fight. They weren't able to deny these Jax at all. Radar stuck himself in a in an attempt to try and do anything that didn't turn into anything. And Hive now here going to die for the second time. It's not going to stop the push, and it's going to be potentially the tool unless.
Well, the respawns here. PCL making a beeline right onto Hope. Can't be CC immune. The Cataclysm just came up, or the Ragnarok rather, as it is going to be no AOE damage. Getting their second ace. Looking to maybe get a third one here. Rock Boom, the last one standing, flashing the emotes. He knows it's over, and so does no AOE damage. One shutdown goes to Rock Boom, but that's all that he can get as no AOE. Take it 2-0.
Maybe all that he can get, but the victory, the thing that matters the most, goes to NAD. They play an amazing series, really well, really greatly played in general. As you can see here, the last fight of the game, the Baron fight. They were able to play around this Baron so well. They don't have the speed to take it down as soon as possible, but they also don't have the opportunity to turn around because they don't have a really straightforward way to engage. It's on Raider forcing the play or on Hive jumping in. But since Hive is holding the Baron aggro, he's taking too much damage. Solidified Sisters forces the play, and they are able to kill Hive before the Baron is down. They're able to kill the rest of the members because now they're in numbers disadvantage. It's just so well played by NAD, understanding their advantage, understanding what they can do to win the fight, and simply not giving an opportunity for the side of CCG to win, to do anything in that fight at all. Really well played.
Really great games here from no AOE damage today. I mean, and I like what we saw out of CCG too, right? Like for a new roster just coming together, they were making changes. Yeah, we get a little bit of an early sight on some of the rosters before the draw show and everything for ACL. They've been making changes up until like the very last day. They did not know exactly who their roster was going to be, and they are looking pretty good, I would say, for a roster that just came together. But no AOE damage. They manage that aggression. They manage to play around everything that they bring to the table so effectively.
Exactly. It was playing around how the snowball potential could come through from CCG. And they managed it out, hold it really, really well. Even in a situation where they started down, we need to remember the game started with a first blood, double summoners down for Hope. And Hope died a second time before level 2, again. But they got an advantage on the top side. They were able to turn around the situation and make it so that Hope's disadvantage could never really turn into anything meaningful. Really well managed overall the situation, really good allocation of resources for multiple champions, and they knew how to keep their advantages in a good way. And I feel like that's such a good team strength to keep. That's a good showing of a team that has been playing for a while together, and a team that has high expectations coming into this split as well.
Yeah, love what we got to see here from them. We do have a little interview with Solidified coming up really shortly. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get everything set up for that, but we will be right back to talk with Solidified about tonight's match. Welcome back, everybody. We are joined by Solidified for a little bit of a post-match interview. Congratulations, Solidified, on a 2-0 win over CCG to start off the ACL. How are you feeling, having that a great start to the season?
Oh, hey. Hi, guys. How are you doing? Honestly, that was a very fun game, and I was listening to some of you guys' your casting, and honestly, you guys do a very fantastic job at this, and I'm excited for the second round of ACL.
Thank you. Always good to hear. I want to start off by talking a little bit about the pre-match coming into today. You know, some bigger names on CCG, you might say, compared to some of the folks in your squad. You know, PCL and Rock Boom had that run with Rock Bottom so recently. Plenty of these guys have been playing an amateur for a while. Does that kind of affect your mentality coming into the day, or do you really not pay attention to the nameplates?
So names are always there, and it's always fun facing those people because they're the competitors. You know, I talk to them. You know, they're great players, cool people. But at the end of the day, you know, you just have to play your best. That's kind of just what I have to think about. Will it affect it a little bit? I guess a tiny bit, but you know, sometimes it just makes me want to play better, right? To impress, you know, just play good for the team.
And I think it's a good opportunity talking about impressing people and how you want to affront this, because obviously we know we have NACL queues coming soon. So I feel like this is a good opportunity to not only impress obviously whoever is watching, but also try and put yourselves forward looking for that potential qualifier, like things you're preparing, things you're ready for, and also knowing that you're potentially going to face off against these players again, maybe taking some of the nerves off, right?
Oh yeah, some of the players are obviously very good. Like in scribs, like sometimes you go toe-to-toe with them, sometimes you do well, sometimes you do bad. And then it all comes to like that match day where you're just like, okay, I gotta make sure like I'm on my A game, you know, can't miss any CS, gotta make sure I cheat a recall, do every little thing possible, you know, that's like normal. Sometimes the nerves come, but you know, usually by game 2, it's usually fine. Sometimes game 1, but you know, just do what you have to do.
Good stuff. So you guys made a pretty deep run in the winter split, ended up taking third in a close 5-game series up against UCI. Looks like you guys mostly chose to stay together in an attempt to sort of build on that here. What are like kind of the goals coming into the split? Where do you feel like you fell short last split, and what are you trying to accomplish this split to maybe try to make that deeper run?
Yeah. So yeah, at first the team was a bit shaky going into ACL. But honestly, we started like pulling back after we started like completing all the pieces. Like everybody we've had were good players, but like sometimes, you know, the fits weren't there or it take too long. So we ended up like coming together with a new team. And at the end, we started to come together quite strong. And yeah, some of the matches like against UCI, and I think it was St. Clair, who actually had Rock Boom from this series. Some of them were quite close. I think we got 3-0'd in upper semifinals or something, or upper finals. And then to beat him again today was pretty good. So, I mean, yeah.
And speaking of potential expectations, right? Because obviously from the previous split, you were able to reach upper grand finals, obviously missing on that last step, losing the 5th game and almost being able to reach the grand finals. Can hit quite heavily, but at the same time, I think it does give you a good perspective on the potential that you guys can have onto this tournament and how you're preparing for it. Is the expectation going to be similar or trying to go for a bit higher? And also kind of curious about the teams you're scared of, because I think CCG and you guys are 2 of the better teams, but is there any other team that maybe is jumping onto you that could be a really potential threat?
Yeah, so I think when I was looking at the teams, I think there were like 4 to 5 pretty solid teams that like would obviously do pretty well. I think, to be honest, if we play on our A game, we could look to get top 2. But that also, you know, if we can play on our A game, we're all there. Any sales going well. Hopefully we don't get tilt factors if we lose 1 or 2 games. Or because honestly, here, short story, with NACL, with this team, we kept going 2 and 3 in like the past like 3, 4 like OQs. So it's like, hopefully this next time we don't go up with another 2, 3, you know, and that'll be kind of cool. So with ACL being afterwards, most likely, like I hope all can go well with that. I would have to look at the current players again. I can't really remember the exact teams were good, but there were like 4 to 5 solid teams there. It's gonna be exciting to play everybody.
Yeah, just a quick thing. In the NACL part, don't worry, TA suffered that for a long time and they were able to compete. So eventually it worked out for you guys.
Dude, that was
let's go.
that was TA for forever. TDS and I were on that every week, every split, multiple times,
great.
watching TA go 2-3 with the most expensive rosters in the league. But you
Oh,
guys
man, yeah,
looking
yeah.
good though. Looking forward
Oh, I
to seeing
appreciate
you
it.
guys give it another shot next weekend. I think we're probably going to close it out there before too long. So anything else you want to say? Anybody else you want to shout out before we close out the stream here, Solidified?
All I'm gonna say is I appreciate you guys casting. You guys did a great job. Very cute individuals, by the way. But yeah, it was all good. I want to just shout out the team. They all do very good. All the players, the coaches. The one small thing I will say with our team, because it's called no AOE damage, we're not really affiliated with them, so it's just kind of like a meme. It's like we're not part of them anymore. But we're pretty bad with names. And going into like OQs, we're named Single Target Healing, which is just another random like spin-off of that. But anyways,
Fun.
That's it. Yep.
That's awesome. Love to hear it. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the rest of the league and in those qualifiers as well. Thanks so much for joining us for the interview. And thanks to everybody at home for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. And from myself, TDS, and Caddy on production, have yourselves a great night. We'll be back next week as the ACL continues.
Bye, guys.